Hello and welcome to the combined modelling presentation of the three projects COMPASS, MarPAMM and SeaMonitor. We're going to describe some of the aspects of the projects that fall under the very broad banner of modelling, and hopefully this will help to bring out our shared interests and some of the ways in which the projects can work together on these aspects. First of all, I'm just going to run through an overview of what modelling falls within the projects, and then each project will take it in turns to dig into the details of their particular aspects. Firstly, within COMPASS, the modelling is all based around two interfaced physical hydrodynamic models, and we're using those interfaced models to generate three distinct products. Firstly, hindcasts, so these are physical states of the region over a 5-year period. Secondly, a connectivity model of two particular species. And thirdly, we'll be generating data layers of hydrodynamic properties, which could be used, for instance, in habitat modelling. In MarPAMM, there's also a physical hydrodynamic wave model of Dundrum Bay, as well as spatial and behavioural models of certain species of seabirds and seals. And in SeaMonitor, there are spatial and behavioural models of seals, basking sharks, skate, cetaceans, and salmon. The modelling programme within COMPASS has been a collaboration between SAMS, the Marine Institute, and Marine Scotland Science. It's all based around the interfacing of two complementary hydrodynamic models, a large-scale model of the Northeast Atlantic run by the Marine Institute and based on the ROMS platform, and a much smaller scale model of Western Scotland run by SAMS and based on the FVCOM platform. Now, the thinking here is that the large-scale model is unable to represent the coastline complexity in the islands of the Scottish coast. So the smaller scale model is nested within it and uses a quite different type of computational grid, which is able to enhance resolution where needed to represent the small-scale features of the coastline. You can see the variable resolution here of the Scottish model as the red mesh superimposed on the regular blue grid of the Northeast Atlantic model. The first of the products based on the interfaced hydrodynamic model data is a hindcast for the period 2016 to 2020. So that's daily physical states across the region for the full 5-year time span, and includes temperature, salinity, mixed layer depth and velocity components. Now the hindcasts have been regridded from the native model calculation grids. They're placed on a regular grid with 1/100th of a degree spacing, so that's roughly a kilometre or better, and they're not yet available, but they will shortly be available through the central COMPASS data portal. Also under COMPASS, we've made available the Scottish component model data on its native grid, so that actually provides higher resolution data in the most intricate coastal areas, and that is currently available on a server from SAMS. Connectivity modelling has been carried out by Tom Adams at SAMS, who's developed techniques for simulating the movement of particles across the boundary between the two component models. Tom has taken two example species, nephrops and modiolus horse mussel, and using predicted habitat distributions for those species as the sources, he's simulated the transport of individuals. He's then collated the results of these simulations into connectivity metrics and connectivity matrices across the region. The final COMPASS model product is being worked on by the Marine Institute and consists of a set of data layers which are being distilled from the underlying hydrodynamic model runs. The data layers consist of quantities such as temperature, salinity, mixed layer depth, current speed, bed stress, and also a frontal probability index. Where appropriate, these will be provided for each month of the year, and mean and extreme values will be given for the quantities. The hope is that these will be useful for applications such as habitat modelling. The data layers are not yet available, but will be very soon, so watch this space. Okay, that's it for COMPASS. I'm going to hand over now to Melanie and Carolyn, who are going to talk about MarPAMM and SeaMonitor respectively.
Hi everybody, I'm Melanie Biausque from Ulster University. I'm going to talk to you about the role we have in the MarPAMM project using the SWAN modeling to look at the hydrodynamic in Dundrum Bay in Northern Ireland. So what is SWAN? SWAN is a third generation wave model which is used to estimate the wave parameters in coastal area using bathymetry, wave condition, wind condition, but also bottom shear stress, tidal conditions to look at the surge, current conditions, etc., etc. So lots of different parameters can be taken into account in this model, which makes it very accurate and very interesting. So for MarPAMM, we are looking at the hydrodynamics in Dundrum Bay. We are using nearshore bathymetry that has been done by AFB, waves that have been extracted from the model WaveWatch 3, but also the waves recording by the buoy M2. We are also using the wind condition and the meteorological conditions from Strength Format Station and the M2 buoy. And to complete all of that and look at the surge, we are looking at the tide from Kilkill. We are using the extracted tide from the tidal gauge, but also some predicted tide. And with all those data sets, we are looking at the relationship between the morphological changes we are recording every month on the beach and the hydrodynamic conditions. So now I'm going to show you a few simulations we've done so far. So the first step, we are using some offshore bathymetry and offshore waves because we don't have the waves inside the bay. So we need to transform the waves data set and to look at what is happening in the bay to have a simulation that is more accurate. So we're using offshore data set, bathymetry and waves, putting them into the model and then extracting the nearshore waves and using the nearshore bathymetry that have been provided. Once you have those conditions, you can start some simulations. So you have two types of simulations, the stationary simulations and the unstationary simulations, which are a bit more complicated. For the stationary simulations, you basically use some average data. So for example, here I'm showing you some average simulation and stationary simulation for the summer 2019 and the winter 2019-2020. So I've been extracted the mean wave height, period and direction, and using the AFB nearshore bathymetry, you can have this type of simulation and you can compare and look at the dissipation of the wave, but also the orbital velocity, which matches the dissipation and where the wave are breaking, and therefore where there is a maximal orbital velocity and sediment transport. From the simulation, you can extract lots of different parameters. So here I'm just looking at basic one that we are very useful for us to understand if there is some hotspot of breaking wave or dissipation of the waves and some hotspot of sediment circulation. So the non-stationary simulation, basically you follow the wave data set you have. So here we have a data set of wave every 3 hours. So I'm showing you an example from the storm Ciara that happened in last February. So you're running the model first offshore in the nesting grid, like I said before, and you will have a simulation every 3 hours on the period. So you start the simulation a bit before the storm started to have a better calibration of the model, and then you end the simulation basically when you want. But the longest the simulation is, the longest is the time of calculation. So once you've done your offshore simulation, you got your nearshore data set, and you can extract that type of figures and look at the orbital velocity, the wave dissipation, and lots of different parameters inside the bay, and we can really see the propagation of the storm Ciara during this month in February. So far we've done only a few simulations for one main reason, is that we have a gap between the nearshore bathymetry from AFB and our DGPS profiles, but this shallow water bathymetry missing is very important because we know there are some sandbars in this area which are very important in the wave breaking and wave dissipation energy. So we are missing information so far, so our simulations are not completely accurate, we need this gap to be filled to be able to have more accurate simulation. Also, we are still working with Dr. Emilia Cristado Pintado in Spain, which is a specialist in wave modeling, and she is helping us on this project.
Okay, folks, my name is Dr. Caroline Finlay. I work for the Loughs agency, which is the lead partner on SeaMonitor. I'm going to give a very quick run through of the modelling work that's happening within the project. We're only really in our first year, and our first field season was hampered quite considerably by COVID, so do bear with us. We've no real results to show you. But on the right hand side of each slide around here, I'll show the lead partner and the staff that are responsible for each of the work packages. So if you have any questions, please aim them at those people. So there are 5 spatial models that are the outputs of SeaMonitor. They're going to be looking at harbour seals, basking shark, skate, cetaceans and salmon. So I'll go straight into the seal modelling work. This is being led by UCC. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I know Mark has probably already talked about it in reference to the MarPAMM project, but what you need to know is seals are being rehabilitated in a centre in Portaferry in Northern Ireland. When they're due for release and they're nice and chubby, we're sticking satellite tags on them, and they're being released into the Irish Sea. And we're getting some lovely tracks of where they end up, what they're up to, and where they're up to it. So interesting results coming back from that work already. We're also looking at basking sharks. Unfortunately, this is being led by Queen's, but they were unable to tag any basking sharks this year, just because due to COVID and the pandemic. What we're planning now for the future is to deploy a range of receivers up the west coast of Ireland. So really looking at basking shark hotspots like Achill, Tory and Malin. This long array going from Ireland to Scotland is actually being put out for salmon, but will also detect the acoustic tags that are being put onto the basking shark. We're also hoping to put satellite tags on the sharks as well. And really they're hoping to look at the patterns of movement in these hotspots, the residency of do the basking sharks stay there or do they move out, and then the satellite tags will let them look at a predictive model of when and why the basking sharks are surfacing. Very interesting work there. We're also going to look at skate. This is again led by Queen's University Belfast. We're going to be using acoustic tags again, but this time the receivers are going to be placed much closer together. Instead of being the whole way up the west coast of Ireland, this is in one hotspot that we found for flapper skate. The idea is putting this complex array in will enable like a high resolution look at the movement and residency of the skates in this area. So this is just off the east coast of County Antrim in Northern Ireland. So really interesting if we get results back of how skate use this area and move between these receivers. They're only about 4 kilometers wide. So yeah, really cool stuff there. GMIT will be running our work on cetaceans. They're going to be using passive acoustic monitoring this time, so no need to actually stick tags into dolphins and whales. They make their own noises, which is great. They'll be using 2 different types of instrument for the passive acoustic monitoring. That'll be sea pods and sound traps. And hopefully this will allow them to look at and model cetacean habitat use and the noise levels against temporal variables. So they're going to be putting these sea pods and sound traps across the North Channel. Last summer we were able to put a sea pod right in the centre of the channel, and we did get some porpoises actually recorded on there, but it's going to be much more exciting this year. We've already got the sea pods and sound traps out across the channel, and they'll be recovered in March, so we'll get some interesting results then. Really we want to look at the use and how cetaceans are using this area from Malin to Isla. So that should allow that to happen. They're also wanting to use a glider, which is currently being looked after by the Marine Institute, to kind of increase the coverage of this kind of static array, so we kind of have a moving array as well. So this will occur around this North Channel area and also out towards the shelf edge. This is where we're hoping to catch salmon smolts too, which is quite cool. We'll hopefully also get an assessment of the pressures and other noise, like environmental noise from these instruments. Okay, last but not least, we're going to be looking at movements of salmon, and this is really to try and model the pathway they are using from the freshwater environment out to the open ocean. And to do that, we're setting up a number of fairly complex acoustic arrays. So for example, the array spanning from Ireland to Scotland, it will be made up of 106 receivers in total. So hopefully we'll actually create almost a curtain that will detect any salmon that is tagged going through this area. We will be tagging a number of fish in different catchments. They'll be in the Republic of Ireland, in Northern Ireland and in Scotland. So we'll have a range of fish. There are also fish being tagged in England on a different project, so we're hoping to capture them too. Unfortunately, we were unable this year to put out the full array across the channel. We did get 6 instruments out and just to the center of the array, and they did actually get detections on them, so we're hoping next year it will be extremely exciting. All the acoustic arrays that are put out by all the partners will be able to capture any smolts on them, so it's quite an exciting piece of work. We're also hoping to get detections on our glider, which will be deployed along the shelf edge to capture salmon smolts on their way out into the feeding grounds. So okay, that is a very quick synopsis of the SeaMonitor project. Again, I've put the lead partners in this section here. There's a lot of other partners working in the background, but these are the leads on the modelling work. So if any questions, aim it at them. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's it from us. Thanks for listening, and we'd be happy to answer any questions if you'd like to know any more about our models.